Good afternoon. You're watching AB Live, a news-based chat show in which we discuss topics ranging from news, business, politics, and so much more. Today, we are at the region's most powerful retail summit, the Retail Leaders Circle here in Riyadh, Saudi Arabia. And with us today to discuss more about this summit, we have Khalid Tash from SAGIA, the Saudi Arabian General Investment Authority. Thank you so much for joining us, Khalid.
Thank you for having me.
Right, you've had a great year so far. I mean, 2019 has been great. I think highest investments or foreign investment in 10 years. How did you manage to achieve that?
So it was a very exciting year for us. I think what we've done. His Excellency the Minister of Commerce and Investment yesterday was saying we have waken up. And I think the results that we've seen on foreign direct investments, new international companies setting up business in Saudi Arabia were phenomenal and backed by two main reasons. One is the reforms that we're doing. So we've implemented a lot of reforms. The World Bank ranked Saudi Arabia as the top improver and reformer globally. We've jumped over 62 ranks in the Global Competitiveness Index. So reforms was a big enabler for investors to take notice that Saudi Arabia is changing. We've always had a strong, let's say, demographic appeal to investors. We have a strategic location. Maybe there were some barriers to doing business in Saudi Arabia, but now we're fixing all of that. So that was one main reason. The second reason is that we're opening up to the world in terms of marketing much more, in terms of promotion. Just for perspective, in 2017, we did 16 international events or roadshows. In 2019, we did 88. So that's the kind of openness that we are and promotional effort that we're putting in. We're trying to be in as many places as we can, meet as many investors as we can, and more importantly, like the retail summit that's happening in Riyadh today, it's for the first time happening in Riyadh. So we're inviting more and more people to come and actually visit, see for themselves, because seeing is believing.
For sure. And I completely agree, and congratulations for all of those achievements. But right now, in terms of sectors, how important a role does retail play in all of this that you just mentioned?
So retail is a very important sector. Retail, His Excellency the Minister of Labor was here today, and he was saying that 10% of the total workforce in Saudi Arabia works in retail. So that's a big number. A million people. And we're supporting about the historic agreement between Saudi Arabia and the UAE to kind of merge the tourist visas, so anyone who gets a UAE visa can come to Saudi and vice versa. So all of that is in part of the cooperation that we do. Most of our free trade agreements and bilateral trade agreements with other parts of the world are things that we do jointly as a Gulf cooperation. So there is a level of competition and cooperation as well.
Right. So this is, I think, one major question that everybody's had, that, you know, there's just so much happening so fast in Saudi Arabia with regards to reforms, rules, etc. So do you see that as a challenge to sort of change the mindset here while bringing in so many changes?
Oh, absolutely. Changing the perception about Saudi Arabia is one of the key pillars of Vision 2030. And this is one of the key mandates on us. And that's why Invest Saudi was created. So Invest Saudi, the story of it is that it's a unified national investment promotion platform that unifies the messages and the efforts of all the government entities, so that we have unified messages, we have clear communication with the outside world, instead of having scattered efforts between people. So Invest Saudi is becoming a platform, an umbrella. We've seen it grow over the past 2 years, and we're very proud at SAGIA to be the brand custodians or the brand managers of Invest Saudi, but it's really a team effort.
All right, great. Thank you so much for joining us here, Khalid, and thank you for those valuable insights. We've definitely learned so much about Saudi and your investment approaches today.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. And next up, we do have Norma Taki from PwC, who is with us. And Norma, thank you so much for joining us here. So tell us a little more about your participation here in the Retail Leaders Circle this year.
Sure. We participate every year as a firm, and we've done so for the last 6 years. And as part of our participation, we usually launch our annual survey, which is around consumer shopping behavior in the Middle East. And this year was very much focused on the urban consumer.
What do you mean by the urban consumer, essentially?
We look at consumers per city, that live in certain cities in the region, and what do they look like, and what their shopping habits are, and why they live in the city. So the focus this year was around consumers in Riyadh, in Jeddah, Abu Dhabi, Dubai, and Cairo.
Okay, so from the research that you've done, essentially, what did you find out about the consumers here in Saudi Arabia specifically?
So I think in general, consumers in this region versus the global consumer value convenience. And what we found, there's a lot around wanting and needing quick service. So we saw very high percentages of consumers saying that they use food delivery apps. They also use mobile payments quite a lot. And they shop online grocery shopping as well, which is very high percentages.
Right, so then is that a problem for the malls or the brick and mortar sector then?
So our findings every year show that the channel to consumers, the highest percentage, is through the stores. So the store is not going away, as much as people have been saying it is, and just the format of the store and the way the store is being used has to change, right? So your typical bricks and mortars, build them, they will come, is not going to no longer be something of the future. There is now is the omni-channel, right? So online doesn't compete with offline. It's complementary. So if you buy it online, and so it's okay. Their data. That they can attract consumers. Quicker, faster.
Tell us more about your participation here in the Retail Leaders Circle.
Absolutely, it's an honor to be here. Retail plays a big role when it comes to any country's economy. It's like the base foundation for any economy. So at Microsoft, we look at the retail as one of the major industries that requires to be revamped and actually reimagined. If we look at the retail industry worldwide, it's being disrupted by the consumers more than it is being disrupted by the retailers themselves, which is something very interesting to see it happen.
But is that a good thing or a bad thing?
Well, there is no good or bad. There is always a challenge, and we need to overcome that challenge, right? And we need to follow the transformation. So we are in the fourth industrial revolution era. 4.0, and digital transformation is playing a big role over there. The machine learning, the artificial intelligence, all of these things are playing big role today that are disrupting every single industry, including the retail. The importance of retail, again, it's about being the foundation or the base for any economy.
Right. Okay. So now you said that the retailers here and the retail sector has to undergo a lot of changes. Why is that, and what is it that they're not doing so far?
Yeah. So if you look at our consumers today, 92% of the consumers of the shoppers, they believe they're actually using their smartphones either during the shopping or before shopping. Even if I'm in a physical store, they're using phone to compare products with each other. So this is one disruptive thing that you need to have the data available, and you need to have the right level of analysis over there. If we look at it from a different angle, we look at people are looking at the shopping experience. Like 83% of the shoppers believe that they know more than the store sales representatives.
Really?
Yes, exactly. These are all statistics. So the level of knowledge at the new generation, okay, it's becoming very huge. Remember, they're exposed to the internet, to the data, okay? So they're not waiting for someone to tell them anymore. So you need to be more smart about how to position it, where to position it, and when to position it.
So is this where people have to cater to individual customers and consumers' needs then?
Of course. So imagine if you can understand your customer's demand or requirements before the customer even steps into the store. Or if you are an application, and you can pop up for your customer things that you believe based on artificial intelligence, based on data that you have on the history of the customer, you believe that they will be needing this in 6 months or in 3 months or in a couple of weeks, something will expire, and he will need or he or she will need to renew it or whatever, you know.
Yeah. So, Ryan, then, are you saying that this requires you to have the information of every consumer and customer? This is from the retailer's perspective.
It's not about the information of the customer, more of the behavior of the customer. Understanding the behavior of the customers definitely is something plays a big role for the retailers to be able to anticipate. Customer would like, sometimes they don't know what they want, okay, especially if like I'm surfing the internet, okay, and I want to see, I'm surfing something, and if I see an ad, I remember that I didn't know that I want this thing, but when I see the ad, I remember this is something I need for my home, for my personal use, for my office and stuff like that.
So just a little bit earlier, you mentioned that you need to like give them the information before they get the information. So then how do you draw the line between spamming, between intrusion into privacy, and what is needed by the consumer and the customer?
Of course. Now, we have to differentiate definitely between that. So, if I go with something that is actually tailored and with the customer concession, of course, okay, because you can always get the customer concession to receive ads and stuff like that. So the customer is in control today of what they receive and what they don't. So, however, those who selected to receive, we can always tailor what to go to them, not to spam them, because they selected to receive. I don't want to spam them with everything, so it goes tailored to them. Those who selected or decided not to receive ads or something like that, then they're not spammed. So it's the customer. We see, at least from Microsoft perspective, we see the customer is more in control. We'd like to make the customer more in control of what to receive and what not.
So what's the role of technology and emerging technology in all of this then?
So if we look at technology today, we provide the platform as Microsoft. We provide the right platform for for all industries, and in retail in specific, it is very important to have the digital platform that allows people and retailers to build the secure apps and to allow even the users to use secure communication, secure transaction with their retailers. All of these things are very important to enable also the privacy things to be very much compliant and also help our customers to have their own privacy and our retailers to have their own security as well.
All right, great. Thank you so much for joining us, Ryan, and thank you for those valuable insights. It was great having you here. So now I think we have Madhur Mehra from Visa. Thank you so much for joining us, Madhur.
Hi, thanks, Shruti. Thank you, Shruti.
Great. So it's great to see you here, and Visa obviously has a very, very important role to play in the whole retail sphere. But tell us about the changing roles that a payment app, digital payments, etc., has to play in the retail sector right now.
Thank you for having me here, Shruti. Wonderful to be in this vibrant place, Riyadh. The transformation that has taken place in Saudi is palpable. It's exciting. Retail is a growing segment. We anticipate the growth rates to be little north of 20% or so in this sector. Saudi and the UAE are the two largest markets within the GCC, and together they account for roughly 77% of retail spends. The digital adoption is driving a lot of convenience and comfort in the consumer's shopping journey. The retailers have now started to recognize that we cannot de-link the purchase experience and the payment experience.
Right.
So there has been a lot of focus on ensuring that these two come together and the consumer gets the experience in the convenience of his house or office. It's a 24/7 shopping journey, and all of that has to be in very simple, secure environments.
For sure. So, I mean, you mentioned two things. We'll cover both those things separately. So first, you said simple. When you're talking about simple, when you're talking about convenience, of course, digitization, technology has a huge role to play in that. And I'm coming to e-commerce and fintech, etc. So I know Visa globally has acquired Plaid again and has stepped into the whole fintech sphere. What's happening regionally?
So, from our perspective, we work with different stakeholders within the payments ecosystem and the retail ecosystem. We work with merchants, we work with the issuing partners, we work with the acquiring partners, and our partnerships and acquisitions globally are a step to be able to bring. We look at our participation and our role as an enabler, facilitate parties together so that we are able to solve for our stakeholders' interests and ultimately deliver what the consumer wants.
Which is what? What does the consumer of today want?
Which goes back to what we talked about earlier, convenience, safe and secure payment experience, not diluting the purchase experience.
Understood. So now in terms of how payments have been done in the past with the retail sector, in the past few years we've seen a slight boom in the digital wallet sphere, and then there's no talk about it in between. So now I'm just trying to figure out, was that just a fad or is that going to be a booming market?
Okay, so let's take a step back and see what have the digital wallets actually done, right? Consumers will have to be provided various different options. One that is most appealing to me, one that is most comfortable and convenient for me. Now, the wallet piece started off with local wallets, bank-led wallets, so on and so forth. They were just a convenient tool of how your payment credentials are stored, how these are used to make transactions. With the advent of the Apple Pays, the Samsung Pays, the X Pays that we call it, it has only accelerated the convenience of how a consumer decides to make a payment, right? What Visa has done is worked with our partners in an agnostic manner, wherein we are facilitating services like tokenization, digital provisioning of your credentials to accelerate the same adoption. Over a period of time, there will be convergence when maybe a few of these will be far more prevalent and preferred than others.
But do you see a rigidity in the market as of now from both the consumers and the retailers' perspective in adapting all of this? And again, going back to the whole security conversation we had, with the whole digital sphere comes the risk of security and probably a trust factor. Is that a challenge that you see as Visa?
So, two parts to your question. I'll answer the first part. In terms of rigidity, I think on the contrary, given the changing demographic, the youth are that much more open to adopting new technologies. So merchants have also, retailers have also started realizing that, and there has been an adoption of different payment methods, including digital wallets, contactless, e-commerce. Now the second part, I think the ecosystem collectively needs to ensure that the technologies that they're developing are industry grade, they are scalable. So on that count, I think we try to stay one step ahead and ensure that there is no dilution of our risk standards. And with the level of awareness, education, certain incentives to try usage and repeat behavior, I don't see any reason why within the regional markets here, we should not look at a higher adoption rate. This helps in driving cash displacement, which then helps drive the economy better.
Great. Thank you so much, Madhur, for joining us, and thank you for those valuable insights from the digital wallet sphere and the payment sphere. It was a pleasure having you here.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, thank you. So we're not done yet. We have a lot more guests coming in, and right now we have Ms. Renuka Jagtiani from Landmark Group with us. Thank you so much for joining us, ma'am.
Hi, how are you?
Very good. So firstly, congratulations on making it to the Forbes list. It was a matter of pride for all of us when we saw your name on the list. Thank you.
Thank you.
Right, so ma'am, can you tell us more about your participation here at the Retail Leaders Circle today?
I think we've been retailers in Saudi for a very long time, for 25 years.
Yeah.
And therefore, for us, it is about a retail summit and actually talking about the excitement in the country, how retail is changing, and how we are really excited to be a part of it.
Great. So, ma'am, right now, what are the major trends that are shaping Saudi's and the wider GCC's retail market?
The biggest change is the consumer. It's the young consumer. It's how they look at the market, how they want to buy, and how they really look at value in each aspect of it. And that really changes how we look at our stores, how we look at e-commerce and servicing this customer.
Right.
The start and the finish is the customer.
Right. So, do you participate in the whole e-commerce versus bricks and mortar debate at all, or is it complementary for you?
It is seamless. It has to be about the customer wherever they want to shop. You can't really separate the two anymore.
Right. So there's this whole conversation about fast fashion and the death of fast fashion happening right now. We saw what's happened with Forever 21 globally. Thankfully, in the region, it hasn't been affected. Was that something that has been worrying you as part of Landmark? And is that something that you're looking into?
I think it's not fast fashion which is dying. It's that you have to service fast fashion possibly differently today, and that's what the consumer's telling us. So it is the consumers buying the way they are before. They could even be buying more, but the way they look at fashion and how they buy is changing, and we have to adapt to that.
Right. So what are the consumer's needs as of today? What is it that your ideal consumer needs?
Our consumer is saying she wants something when she wants it, in a convenient way, at a price she wants it, and she wants to be able to find it easily. And that's what it is about for her.
Right. I like how you mentioned she. Is there no he in the consumer bases?
There is a he, very much so, but a lot is really about the woman consumer in a lot of the categories we do. Be it women's clothing, be it kids, be it beauty, and therefore for us, very often it's a she. But it's not only a she.
So I would like to know from you, what is the main role that technology and especially emerging technologies have to play with regards to retail? So I know you also have invested in a chief innovation officer, etc., and AI is going to play a major role in Landmark's operation. Does that have a direct impact on sales and revenue?
Technology is a tool. It's how you use it. So technology doesn't determine revenue and results. I think it's people who do that, and people who know how to use technology and how you leverage that and the skills you build within an organization. Ultimately, it's about people and it's about the product and the consumer.
All right. So finally, what are Landmark's plans for the coming years now?
This is for
Back in the Dubai offices, but until then,